Dear student, as you know, economic reform under liberalization is going on, and already we have discussed about financial sector reform, and in which there was one more topic which we have discussed, and that is demonetization. Now, our next topic is fiscal reform. See, fiscal reform relate to revenue and expenditure of the government. Tax reform are the principal component of fiscal reform. So when we will classify our taxes, so basically there are two types of taxes, direct taxes and indirect taxes. Income tax is one of the major example of direct tax. So direct taxes are those taxes the burden of which cannot be shifted onto other. Means you cannot shift burden of this particular tax to any other person. So there are example of direct taxes which are income tax and wealth tax. One who pays such a tax himself bears the burden of it. And another one is indirect taxes. These taxes are levied on goods and services. These taxes are those taxes the burden of which can be shifted onto others. For example, GST, which is commonly known as goods and service tax, custom duty, etc. On who one who pays such a tax. For example, a shopkeeper paying GST, that is goods and service tax, to the government can shift the burden of this tax onto the final buyer of the goods by adding the tax amount to the basic price of the goods sold. So, whenever a businessman pays GST, he will charge this amount from the final consumer, that is also known as customer. So that is why GST will be of two types. So for businessman GST, when businessman purchase goods, so at the time of purchasing of goods, whatever tax businessman has to pay, that is known as input GST. And when businessman sells goods, he will collect this amount from the customer, and that GST is known as output GST. Okay. So prior to liberalization, tax structure in the country has been highly complex and evasive, and fearing a heavy burden of taxation, people would often evaded taxes. Means people were, they were not interested to pay tax, and simply they were hiding their incomes. Now tax structure has been simplified and moderated, and this has raised the tax compliance, and therefore tax revenue of the government is increasing day by day. So now in next video we will have a detailed discussion regarding GST, which is commonly known as goods and service tax.